so I started as a regular fly angler and was really into nymphing, like central Pennsylvania. Joe Humphreys, is from the area, and it just something that's what I got into, and that's what I really like doing, and even more than dry fly fishing, which some people probably think is crazy. I just like nymphing. It's just fun, I like everything about it. But so when Tenkara came along, I kind of missed the whole Euro nymphing thing. Like I just, because I was into Tenkara for the last, 11 years or so. And so recently I've gone back and I've got some some Euro nymphing rods and kind of messing around with that. And now I've got, 20 some years of experience. But even so, there's so much information available, for like fly fishing, Euro nymphing. You Google it and it'd be really overwhelming. Um, and this is a long lead up to the question, but so in the beginning when I started Tenkara, a really cool thing was that I kind of liked how there wasn't much available, much information, and I looked at it as like a reset. Like I could just go and take this thing and go and learn on my own, and I really enjoyed that because I always say that that with Tenkara the gear just stays out of your way, and it lets you focus on fishing. Um, so like nowadays though there's a lot more online, with Tenkara, a lot more information, a lot more that you can. I mean, what would be your advice to like someone who was getting into Tenkara today? Like, would you advise against like looking at too much of that stuff and doing more learning on your own? I mean, what's your take on that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a really good question because there's always the potential of just kind of becoming overwhelmed
Right.
and complicating things. But I think from my perspective, like as sharing the idea of fishing more simply, my message today is not very different from the message 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes there is this push and pull of like, we want more information and we want to learn more because we love this sport. But then there's this kind of pull for like, hey, let's go back to simplicity a little bit. It's like it's much more foundational, much more basic than that. So let's go back to the basics a little bit. So and it's kind of it's a tough balance to achieve because if you've been doing it for a long time, you want more.
Yeah.
Sometimes, right? I mean, that's just kind of what drives a lot of people. Um, and but I think it largely depends on personality as well. How much do you really want to geek out about the sport, or like how much do you really want to get into it and complicate it, or just learn every single thing that you possibly can, or how much do you want to just have a good experience outside, and that's kind of like where the extremes might be, right? So, we try to kind of stay a little bit in the middle. It's like we're not going to provide super technical information. Like I'm not going to write in very technical ways. Like really stay in the basics. And just wrote on our blog post recently, like somebody, Mike Agneta from Tenkara Angler, he had a really good post on his website recently and just about the state of Tenkara, suggestions for what we can do, and there was a mention about like the fact that we're not sharing a ton of new stuff, or myself personally, he said, and part of that is because to an extent, not a lot, not completely, but I feel like I've shared most of what I wanted to share. Now it's how do we get this information and share it in different, more accessible ways, package it in different ways, on the website so that people find it more easily, but really not trying to complicate it. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I could be writing about like, okay, let's write about how to land a fish and how to manipulate the angle of your rod and like do all these complicated diagrams. But that might improve the fishing of a few people a tiny bit, like 1%,
Mhm.
and it's also going to complicate the fishing of a lot of people by a good amount. I think
Right.
they're going to start thinking about, oh, maybe I have to move the rod this way. And my philosophy is that Tenkara it is fishing in general is an intuitive thing.
Mhm.
In the moment we start throwing too many things into it, it ceases to become intuitive, and it
Right.
becomes this thing that we're like trying to find information in our brains for.
Hmm.
So my goal is usually to be like, okay, I want to share this information so you know it's there, but only to the extent that it allows you to tap into your intuitiveness for fishing,
Right,
if that
right.
makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so there's going to be different approaches. There's some people, I think like the Discover Tenkara guys in the UK, like they write very technical
Mhm.
information. Somebody really wants to get very, very deep, that's a good place to go. But I think the message is, in my advice would be like, don't complicate your fishing too much, because in the end, it's like you cast a fly, and yes, you want to learn how to read currents, you want to learn all the basics, but then you catch a fish and you figure out how to bring it in.
Right.
That's kind of what I like to focus on because that's my personality as well. Like,
Yeah.
yes, once in a while I get into some activity that I really like to geek out and learn a ton of stuff. Uh, but for the most part, like just my personality, I like getting into a lot of activities. Like I take up like probably 3 hobbies a year at least. But I like learning just enough that I get the experience and then I get to do it and have fun with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Once I get beyond that point, it just it's not that it ceases to be fun, but all of a sudden it just feels like I'm trying too hard, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
crazy about that for most things.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think I know exactly what you mean. And I totally relate to what you're saying about the technical details. So whenever I haven't given presentations for a while, but for a while I was given, a few a year, and um, and yeah, my philosophy was always like, you give people enough information that they can get started on something. Like if I was talking about, like say I'm writing an article about wet flies or whatever. Um, so like give them the idea that you can manipulate this fly in different ways, and then go ahead and do it and just mess around. That's kind of my advice. Like do like what a kid would do if you gave a kid this rod and a fly and said like make it look like a bug. You know what I mean? Rather than getting into like all the details about how you could do that. So the thing I've been doing in the last couple is I've been asking, which I should have done from the beginning. I've been asking folks for a fly. If you're going to go out, spur of the moment, you're going out to the stream. What are you taking? What fly are you taking with you?
yeah. So would it be a cop out to give? You're talking about me personally?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You personally, you're
Uh,
headed out to the stream, and you're gonna,
I think
what
the
do you?
Amano Kebari, that's the lighter gray reverse hackle fly. I think that's kind of my go-to fly. If I had to fill my box out with one fly, that would probably
That'll
be
be it.
it.
Cool, cool. And then the other thing I've been asking is uh, desert island disc, or you're going on a road trip, you're going to the stream. What music are you putting on? Because I think you can learn a lot about people when you find out what they're listening to. So what are you putting on the radio when you're going out to the stream?
You know, um, here's a, yeah, that's a great question. It's trying to think of. I'm not very good with like names of bands. Like I really kind of forget them
Yeah,
really
yeah.
easily. Uh, so kind of being I've got my Spotify playlist was kind of playing a minute ago. And by the way, like we do have a Tenkara Tunes playlist
Oh yeah.
on Spotify.
Okay, cool. I'll check it out.
Playlists and that we put together. But my favorite is the road trip one.
Oh okay.
Just Tenkara Tunes. I think it's one word to find it. That kind of has like I put that one together, and that has most of the music that I really enjoy.
Okay, cool.
Uh, but yeah, it's more like just like more of a something between folk and indie kind of music. More guitars and good vocals. That tends to be my preference, but actually one that I do love listening to, and it's in a playlist, and I just a name Takenobu, which you're
Okay,
probably familiar with,
I recognize that. Yeah, yeah.
so I've used a lot of his music. He's a celloist, but he sings beautifully as well. And there's a reason I use a lot of his music on our videos and podcasts, just because I really like the tone of it. And yes, it's got that kind of vibe between a little bit of indie and folksy in a way, but with cello um, play, but good like rhythm. That's a really good one. That's a
Okay,
good.
cool, cool. Thank you. So I just want to say thanks for taking some time to talk with me. And yeah, it's been a while. I think the last time we chatted was in Arkansas of all places, which is, you know, kind of funny, but but yeah, I just
That's
really appreciate it. And
yeah.
I just wanted to give you a, so I just want to say thank you. And then if you have any last comments you want to leave folks with before we sign off.
No, but yeah, thanks for putting this project together. I really enjoy the concept of just talking as anglers, and yeah, I looking forward to watching some more of the episodes. Yeah, thanks very much for thinking of me and including me in that.